Origin just Homestead UX, and this is the failed cures for the plague by channel Good Enough. Yeah, this was just popped up. I don't know why, but yeah, totally forgot this channel. But it's a really insanely good channel. It gets like, oh my god, nearly 1 million subscriber. Like, when did he start his channel, man? It's like barely, like very recently, right? And I remember like him having like few thousand subscriber, then it just jumped to instantly like 20, 50, 100,000, like in like just few days. And I love that, obviously, but in newer channels usually that doesn't happen. So that made me think like this guy must be really good. Then I really looked at his video properly. Like, there is something about them, right? It's Salmonella style, obviously. Did Salmonella started this? Is he the pioneer of this? Too many Salmonella channels just popped up like this. So some of them I even do the reaction about. But this is really good, right? This Blue Jay feels a bit different than Salmonella, but kinda. But this, I think the horribleness of it. His animation sometimes goes so hard that even like what the you see that kind of thing from Salmonella like once in a while, like, oh what the, and it's like always a surprise, like hit in the face, like what the fuck. This guy does that every single video, like all the way to 11. So that level of imagination he has, right? It's not easy to do that kind of animation, right? He does that, which is awesome. So this is gonna be good because failed cures for the plague, right? I'm guessing the bubonic plague he's talking about. Back then, when modern science dates back to like, I don't know, like microscope and telescope, which is like basically happened in same time, like 18th century, 17th century, something like that. Happens very close by, close to no time. Both of them happen because obviously once you discover telescope, you're like, what if I revert it, and there you go, microscope. So after that, like, everything, science started to become stronger and stronger. Obviously this all happened after Newton, but still like stronger. So post Newton, post microscope telescope, the modern sciences start to pick up. Every discovery, major 99% of all the discovery you can think of probably happened after that. Before that, we were just winging it, right? Like whatever we can think of, like, oh, you have eye issue, let's like poke something into, there you go, that type of shit, right? We do that sophisticated now with laser and thing, still poke it though. So this is going to be interesting. I'm guessing it's from that time. So yeah, Black Plague, there you go, it says in description. It's going to be awesome. Let's watch it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Definitely comment. I like to know what people are thinking. I do this for, that kind of like, this is social media to me. I don't do Facebook and things like that. I have Instagram now, but like I'm not really that active. I was never one for like social media. This is social media to me. Like I was gonna watch these videos anyway, but because of reactions, I can do this like back and forth type of way. People have told me to do like Discord or something. I don't understand like what is Discord, and I'm confused. Maybe one day when I understand it or something. But yeah, let's watch this one.
Strange and slowly work our way towards the most horrifying things on the list. Number 10. The Four Thieves Vinegar. So legend has it that a group of 4 thieves would loot and ransack the homes of people who had recently—
What the fuck is this? What's with the animation, man? It's just killing me. Look at that. At least kid is like somewhere okay.
died from the plague. They would go on to steal from dozens of victims without any of them ever getting sick. They stayed safe by rubbing a secret potion over their entire bodies. But eventually, these thieves would be caught and apprehended by the authorities. They were then offered their freedom in exchange for the recipe of this secret potion, which they revealed to be a mixture of vinegar.
So that's not a kid. That's just thief. Is that what you're saying?
Garlic, herbs, and spices. No one knows for certain if this story is true, but this was a very popular tale during this time period.
Okay, it makes sense because that nose thing, that plague mask or plague doctor mask. I'm pretty sure they were putting some shit like that in the nose, right? Because they thought like smells might cause the issue. What is it called? What you call it? That smell thing, right? Like that's how you spread it. Like miasma or something. I don't know, right? That's how it spreads type of shit. So they were like, that's what they probably thought and they applied it. Could be that.
This would lead merchants to go door to door selling this vinegar mixture as a preventative for the plague. Buyers were instructed to rub this potion on their hands, ears, and temple. But if the merchant had them hook, line, and sinker, he would simply just tell them to lather it over their entire bodies, since everyone knows the number one rule in sales is always upsell when you can. And surprisingly, this potion would work really well against the bubonic plague, thanks to the mixture containing the herb mugwort, which is a natural bug repellent. And since the bubonic plague was spread from the fleas of infected rodents, this would prove to be one of the very few remedies that actually worked. But sadly, fleas were not the only way of contracting the Black Plague, the second method being much more deadly and was most commonly spread from human to human.
Yeah.
This would be known as the
I
pneumonic.
mean, it's a virus. It spreads like basically, right? And during the time it happened, like towns and like whenever I see those videos, I don't know if I have OCD or not, but my OCD flares up every time I see like like people close together and like yeah. So obviously like it's gonna spread like that.
Plague, which often carried a 100% mortality rate. This form usually spreads when a person inhales the airborne droplets of an infected person, which caused the disease to infect the lungs. And of course, the potion would prove to be completely useless against this form of infection. Number 9. Quack doctors. Throughout history, when the Black Plague would break out, those with financial means would flee from cities and escape to the countryside. This would of course include the majority of the city's doctors, leaving behind a massive and lucrative market for quacks, where they would post up on city corners selling powders, potions, magical cures, and anything else that they could think.
That just pisses me off, right? Like obviously you can't demand things from people, but you expect it at least, right? During the COVID times, doctors and things really took things in there, like they really took risks because they were doctors. They're like, we have to do this. Like I've seen it through my own eyes, like doctors really not caring about anything, just like charging through doing their thing, right? So around this time, like doctors is fucking off to like farmland, like when the plague is going on, that like top 1% mentality does kick in, which is fucked up.
Think of. They would yell at the top of their lungs at people walking by, letting them know that they were selling the latest and greatest cures or preventatives for the plague
Snake
or
salesman.
any other ailments. Are you in search for the best preventative for the plague? Then you need to be eating unicorn horn powder. What the hell are you doing? Have a
It'll also
stomachache?
get you
Oh,
hard.
that's the first sign of the plague. So drink this fermented potion. Tastes terrible. Shut up and drink it. Don't you want to feel better? Of course you do. Feeling ill? Eat a baby foot. Have a headache? Place this magical stone under your bed. Sniff the squirrel hide. Cover yourself in salmon oil and jump into your neighbor's bath. You will be feeling better by tomorrow. But if for some reason, by some miracle, my 100% guaranteed remedy doesn't work, come back for a full
refund after 10 days of your initial first symptoms.
Now, here's a list of some of the most common items that a quack doctor would sell throughout history, just so you can get an idea of how scummy these guys really were. Snake oil, of course. Chill and fever tonic. Miracle elixirs that cured pretty much everything. Ointments that would cure baldness. But my favorite one, a tincture that would restore life in the event of sudden death. And since these
Hey, shut up. Those things are real. I've seen that in video games like Skyrim or something. If you die, you come back with 10% of life. So shut up. They were playing Skyrim before, centuries before that was even a thing. That's what that is. What the fuck? Right? Yeah, he's like, right. Like, how you know you're gonna die? Like, you just gonna drink it? That was their plan, I'm guessing. So people drink it left and right, thinking they're gonna die. And they're like, when they don't die, they buy it again. Seriously, man, that's just preying on the weak and poor. It's just fucked up.
quacks sold whatever they wanted, we can only assume that there's probably hundreds of other items that were never documented. Number 8. Urine. Back during the medieval period, urine had a great reputation since it was thought to have cleansing and healing properties, so naturally it would be used as a form of treatment for the plague. Finally, a remedy I can afford. Anyone infected with the disease was encouraged to take a bath with clean urine to relieve some of their painful symptoms. The urine would be collected from healthy people and sold to the sick, where it was then added to their bathwater, or better yet, consumed directly from the glass. But if I was alive during this time,
So that's definitely not gonna spread around other diseases from other people, right? I mean, this is fucked up. I'm pretty sure I've heard from some people somewhere as when I was a kid or something, like I don't know, village people or something. Basically had a misconception or something, right? Like there's a misconception like urine can be antibacterial or something. So if you have an injury, like how people pour alcohol, if you pour a urine, it might disinfect. I'm like, even then when I was a kid, like the fuck you on about? That's not real. What you talking about?
period, I for one could never bring myself to partake in such a disgusting and humiliating practice. Buying from a middleman, since I always say drinks are at their best straight from the faucet. Number 7. Miasma theory. One of the most popular theories at this time was
Oh,
that
there
the
you go.
plague was contracted by inhaling bad air, or simply put, bad odors. The long list of these bad
That's not just about the plague. That's about everything. Cholera outbreak and God, what is that Jon Snow thing? Like I watched the video from extra credits, extra history, whatever. Right? Me as my like it must be in the air. Don't smell it, like type of way. It's always that, which always surprised me. Like back then, towns used to smell from like I don't even know, like like horse shit or something, like cow shit. Just like it wasn't as clean as today, right? You always see like old things, old movies, like always depicted as that, right? Like something smelling something. So people believed in bad air, like, and still everything smells. How people are panicking, like this smell's gonna, like make me sick. I need to run away or some shit. How did people live in those kind of towns anyway? That surprised me always.
smells included organic and human waste, decaying flesh, contaminated water, and of course, the Dutch oven, which was a guaranteed way to be put on trial for attempted murder. Bad smells were believed to carry contaminated air, which once inhaled would lead to
So that's not real, all right? That can kill the person. I don't give a f about that. That's Dutch oven. That person goes to jail for life because of Dutch oven.
illness. The public was encouraged to carry around flowers, rose petals, or herbs, which they would oftentimes hold to their
Because that would kill the bad air, not mask it, kill it.
nostrils, since they believed that the sweet smell would cancel out the bad air. This is one of the reasons plague doctors would wear these terrifying masks, since the beak would be filled with flowers and spices, which they believed helped keep the disease at bay. But of course, these wonderful smells did absolutely
I
nothing.
think it was like the first 10th number thing about the ginger and things that they rubbed on it. I'm pretty sure like there's like ginger and things inside that nose, thinking it would kill the bacteria in the air or some shit. I'm pretty sure they were doing that.
And preventing people from catching the plague. If anything, it just gave people a false sense of security. Number 6. Leeches. Leeches were commonly used by the wealthy as a form of bloodletting, and was relatively painless considering what the alternative was, but more on that one later. Bloodletting is when blood is drained from a patient, usually from an incision or leeches. Here, the leeches would be placed on a person's body, while they kick back, relax, and let the leeches go to town. The theory behind this was that the leeches would suck out the bad blood, which was thought to cause illness. But the irony being that the leech's bite was the thing that could make them ill, since it always carried the chance of developing an infection. Now, originally I didn't think this whole leech operation sounded too bad, until I saw the diagram for the most common locations for bloodletting. Number 5.
That last thing is not true. I don't care if you give me evidence. That's not. I will not believe that one. Shut up. Hell no. Not there. Come on, man. Blood transfusion in the old time. There you go. Play the Seinfeld music in the background or something. That is horrendous shit. Leeches, are you fucking kidding me? They will suck out. Yeah, your immune system. Your body is literally like an engine or something. Right? If you stress out an engine, it will all go haywire, right? If you stress your immune system, your body basically in any way, even workout. I've seen this first fucking hand. If I work out extremely, I have to be worried after 5-6 hours because I'm very easily prone to some kind of like cold or some things like that. I start to get headache and then I'm like, what the fuck? Some kind of a cold jump basically got in or something because my immune system was weak. Why? Because I worked out 3 hours straight intensely. Sometimes I don't even work out that much because I'm afraid I might catch cold or something afterwards, depending on the season outside. Your body gets stressed in any way, especially at that level. Even the simplest thing might get in. Like simple thing might give you like cold and pneumonia. You think you have bubonic plague, but you'll die differently, right? Oh wait a minute, my skin didn't change color. Why is it dying? Because you put fucking leeches there. His immune system is weak now. Especially back then, their immune system was already weak.
The Vickery method. The Vickery method was named after Thomas Vickery, the English doctor who invented the technique, and this would become one of the most popular cures during the plague. This first begins with a healthy chicken having its bottom plucked clean. The chicken's back door is then placed directly on a sick person's buboes and strapped down to keep it in place. The logic behind this was based on the belief that chickens breathe through their back door, so in theory, it would suck out and absorb the sickness from the person. And if the chicken...
I still don't fucking... Leeches would suck the bad blood out. How do you know? How do you know it will suck out the bad blood, not just blood? Chicken breathe through from the behind, so they will suck. How do you know? How do you not know they just like miss it or something, or like suck out? Like even if you're putting in that area, how do you know it's gonna work like that? People making shit up. Like what the fuck?
It contracts the plague from the human and begins to show signs of illness, people would oftentimes take this as a sign that the remedy was working. If the chicken happens to die before the human, another chicken simply takes its place. Now, I can only speculate since there isn't much written on the subject, but this seems like a sure way to get an infection. You see, buboes would oftentimes grow so large that they would rupture, and a chicken's bottom attached to an open wound just seems like the best way to get your admission ticket to the afterlife. Number 4. Flagellation. In Europe during the medieval
So you're telling me bird flu didn't rise around this time? It might have. Who the fuck's gonna keep logs of it, right? It probably did. So for all we know, like third of the Europe didn't die because of like Black Death or something. Half of them because of stupidity and other viruses as well.
medieval period, religion was deeply ingrained into all aspects of life. So naturally, people began to believe that the Black Plague was simply a punishment from God for their sins. Soon, groups of people began to gather and walk the streets while vigorously whipping themselves as a public display of repentance. While I, for one, prefer to keep this kink at home. But to each their own. These groups of people would use leather whips with knotted tails, but some show-offs would take it a step further by adding nails to their whips. These flagellant groups would recruit others when they would slowly walk from town to town, whipping their own backs and carrying crosses. They would do this act multiple times a day. But the real tragedy would come when one of these individuals would be infected with the plague, since they were left to fight an uphill battle with an already deadly disease. And having a weak body that was severely cut up from the self-inflicted wounds definitely didn't help. Number 3.
You Christians are kinky. Alright, that's just effed up, right? All religions have their flaws. I don't know where this repentance thing started, but I guess it's like, in a way, it's psychology. I don't know, like people goes to shrink, talk their issues through and try to find resolution. So if you've done really bad things, all this shit might make you think like you've done your part. God forgives you, you can move on, because our mind, all the illnesses we have, because our mind catches on to things. Depression, it never leaves it, right? If somebody accidentally kills somebody, that's gonna stay there with rest of their lives, gonna have bad dream, everything, will not able to like stop that thought, right? That morality thought, right? That's how we humans are, that's how we develop, right? So all this system was placed, I guess, like confessions, like like this kind of thing, all that. So this is all my guessing, I'm guessing. So people do that thinking that they're like done enough, or like God forgives them, they can move on, in a form of psychology, I guess. I don't know. Obviously they have problems like this is just insane.
Feces. As time went on, physicians began to try all sorts of bizarre methods in the hopes of finding a cure, with this special paste being one of them. The paste consisted of tree resin, flower roots, and human poop. This operation would first begin with the patient's buboes getting sliced open, and as soon as the incision was made, it would then be stuffed with the paste, then tightly wrapped and sealed to hold every.
Wait a minute, what? That was mute. But yeah, what I was saying was, one sick person, one plague doctor, and one cup. That's what this is. That's what this is happening, right? Not two girls and one cup, two fucked up people and one cup. I don't know what to think of. This is insane, man. I don't know what to think of that. Like, I'm a very visual person. The moment he says something, my mind starts to visualize, and I don't like this shit at all. What the fuck?
Everything in place. Patients would then be instructed to get some bed rest and wait. Now, if the patient's body part had not fallen off by the following morning, they would for sure be left fighting a losing battle, since it had now turned into a 2v1 with the person fighting against the plague and the infection. Number 2. Bloodletting. This was an extremely popular medical procedure that was used from ancient times all the way through the late 19th century. This procedure was in fact so popular that during the medieval period, this would oftentimes be the first thing a doctor would recommend. This absolute nightmare would first start with a person getting their arm sliced open and allowing the blood to drain into a bowl. Now, if a cut on the arm made you uncomfortable, Don't worry, since you always had the option to have the incision made on your neck instead. Now, the instruments that were used to slice patients open look like this.
Right there, jam it right there. It's all fine. 19th century all the way to I'm guessing as soon as like science became like big enough, like okay, we can do this properly medically. Until that, people were doing this shit. This is such a complex thing, right? Transfusion of blood like that. People doing that like with basic shit like stick and stones basically. How did like more than 50% people didn't die of infection somehow? This doesn't make sense.
But just covered in blood from the previous patient. Since being sanitary wasn't much of a concern during this time period, which of course would cause many patients to die from infection. But one of the most concerning things about this procedure was the amount of blood that would be drained, since it was common practice to increase the amount drained based on the severity of the person's sickness. Have a headache? That's 2 teaspoons. A fever? That's 16 ounces. A crippling social anxiety that prevents you from enjoying social gatherings? Yup, that one is about a gallon. Now, surprisingly, doctors...
So let me get this straight. The sickest person who's like needs proper immune system is gonna get drained the most, so their immune system goes down significantly, resulting in obviously fatal results like dying, obviously.
were not usually the person to perform bloodletting and was actually a task left for barbers, since they were a lot more skilled in handling razors. This is the reason why they began to place the red stripe on the barber pole outside of the building, since it would let the public know that surgery was performed inside. Barbers would also pull teeth, amputate limbs, and make holes in people's heads. Number 1. Extermination. Now this would easily be the most...
That's a cure. The number 1 is a cure. I mean, if you're not there, you're a cure, right? That's a cure. Ugh. Of course, why did I assume anything? The second one about the barber, that holy shit. So barber were doing all those shit. So it's not just haircut. Is that why they name barber and not just haircutters or something? Because you do more than just haircut? That shit is insanity. What if I had time machine? I would know you would not go back. You would not go back. Because nothing can come good from that.
Extreme measure taken during the medieval period in the attempt to stop the plague. One of the groups that was heavily targeted were the Jewish. This would first start when the rumors began to circulate that the Jews had intentionally poisoned the drinking wells. So on September of 1348, a group of Jews would be taken as prisoners to Chillon Castle on Lake Geneva. There, they were brutally tortured until one of them would finally confess to poisoning the drinking water, which of course was not true. The information of this confession was then sent to various cities in Germany, and once the news arrived, it began to spread like wildfire throughout many countries in Europe.
Yeah, torture never works. Even today, CIA and everybody comes out and say like torture never works. Because if you're under stress, you would admit to anything. And torture is beyond stress. Even people in police stations sitting there for like 10 hours. Eventually just say, if I admit to them, will you let me go home? They're like, yeah, no, just like they just lie. Police can lie apparently. And there you go, confession. Innocent people goes to jail, everybody's happy apparently. So back then, like just like torture this guy over like doing God knows what, flaying and whatever, like so removing the skin and God knows what. Like that's just fucked up. Of course he's gonna like admit after that, and there you go, like people just like, see, I knew it, that Jew admitted that. Why would he admit if it's not real? And like this kind of like a, you know, religious what is it called, like bigotry. Religious bigotry becomes even bigger. Like Christians hate Jews even more now. Even today, that's the thing, right? Jewish spaceless or whatever that thing she was saying, the congresswoman in US, that shit goes on even today. What the fuck?
And thousands of Jews would then be targeted and murdered for this false confession. It was even documented that Jews from the age of 7 and up were all considered guilty for this crime, since the belief was that they all had previous knowledge of this plan. Even though the Jewish community was clearly suffering as they themselves were being decimated by the plague. But this wouldn't seem to matter.
Did you just fucking say 7? I can only imagine a 6-year-old kid, because yeah, I see that. So 1 year, that's not that much. 7-year-old kid, that's like nothing. They can barely speak at that point, right? Like they just barely start to speak properly. Even then, they just like trying to make one point. They might consume like 2-3 minutes just to get the point. They're like just stupid kids. But obviously, that's Jewish kids, so they didn't care. That's how much animal we humans are. Religion can make you do unspeakable thing even to kids, and you can just justify it. That's how fucked up we are.
To the general public, and the killings would tragically continue. And it wouldn't be until the spread of the plague began to slow down that the murders would too.
Play more jolly music. Why not after that? More jolly music. There you go. That's just fucked up. I can't, man. That's 7-year-old thing. That's just gonna like stay with me for a few hours at least. That's just fucked up. But there you go. Shit like this happens a lot. Way too many histories littered with things like that. So yeah. Alright people, that was the failed cures for the plague. My channel good enough. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, so that way I would know if I should do more from this channel or not. And yeah, if you haven't seen other reactions, I'm pretty sure you can see it. And I'll be like, if YouTube is good enough, you can see that in end card. And I'll see you next time.